Developing right now on Morning News Now, a state of emergency at the southern border. This morning, hundreds of military personnel being sent to the U.S.-Mexico border following a record surge in crossings, including nearly 10,000 people just in the last day.
This is not normal. It is not normal for thousands of people to simply be walking in a line without consequence.
We'll take you to Texas for the latest on the crisis, the calls for help, and the implications beyond state lines. Plus, a highway horror. New information this morning about a deadly crash involving a bus full of high schoolers on their way to band camp. What investigators are saying about what may have caused that accident. Also, a House divided. This morning, a government shutdown looking even more likely after House Republicans leave the Capitol without a spending deal in place. We'll tell you about the latest failed vote as the end of the month deadline approaches. And more alarming allegations against pop sensation Lizzo, this time coming from a fashion designer and former employee. We'll break down the new lawsuit which accuses the performer of allowing bullying, harassment, and discrimination behind the scenes.
Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. Take a deep breath. It is Friday. The week is almost over.
Take a moment to enjoy.
Exactly. We're going to help you get through that. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Stephen Romo, in for Savannah Sellers today. And we do begin with that growing crisis at the border. Border officials say unauthorized crossings by migrants are surging again.
You'll remember we saw a record high of more than 10,000 crossings in one day back in May. Then those numbers dipped after the Biden administration put new asylum restrictions into place. Well, this new spike is approaching that all-time daily high, and it is putting a strain on resources in some border communities. NBC News correspondent Guad Venegas joins us now from Eagle Pass, Texas. So, Guad, why after such relative stability are we now seeing this uptick in crossings this week?
Joe, Stephen, good morning. Well, the changes made at the U.S. border don't really affect what's happening in Latin America. So it's not that something specifically happened in Mexico or at the border. It's that people have been making their way north to the United States. If you look at the numbers reported by the United Nations in Panama, that right at the jungle where a lot of the migrants cross to make their way through Mexico, they've already seen more than 300,000 people emerge from the jungle, from the Darien Gap. These are individuals that are trying to make their way north. Now, more than 300,000 alone this year. Last year, the whole year, they had less than 300,000. So it's the largest number of people that they've seen make their way through. What does this mean? This means that we've got larger groups of migrants making their way through Central America in Mexico. Mexico has, of course, been dealing with this issue. And just days before, Joe, the largest train company, freight train company, shut down operations in northern Mexico because they said they had unprecedented numbers of migrants riding those trains to come north. In fact, you can see just right above me, this is one of the bridges that has the trains that come, the freight trains that come from Mexico into the U.S. Yesterday, CBP authorities said that they had shut down some of those rails. We know that some of those trains were halted down in Mexico. So it was a matter of time until new waves or a new mass of migrants arrived here at the U.S.-Mexico border, Joe.
And Guada, you're in Eagle Pass. The city has declared a state of emergency. So what does that actually do? What resources does that free up for officials to handle this?
So, Stephen, when migrants arrive, they turn themselves in this area. This is just one of the areas here in Eagle Pass at the border. When they turn themselves in to federal authorities or taken to a processing center, that's where they begin the asylum-seeking process. Now, if they are allowed to remain in the United States, then they're allowed they're freed essentially in the streets here in Eagle Pass. That's when the city has to use its resources to help them get to the places of their destination, to provide water. And there's, of course, other costs for officers to deal with that influx of migrants, and they need more money for that. So the state of emergency would then make more money available for city resources to help with that humanitarian effort. That's, of course, different from what's happening here because you've got different pieces moving, right? You've got your Border Patrol and CBP officers that are doing the processing. They are the ones that legally detain individuals here and begin that process. And you also have the state using its resources with the National Guard and the state troopers, the Texas Department of Public Safety, which are patrolling the border. This is part of the Lone Star operation that the governor and Texas put into effect. So different pieces moving, state authorities, federal authorities, and local authorities declaring that state of emergency to get more resources.
And Guad, very quickly, facing pressure from within his own party, President Biden is making some changes. Talk about how the administration is responding now.
So the biggest change now is TPS, temporary protective status, offered to Venezuelans that arrived in the United States before the end of July. Now, this is huge because this means that any individual in the United States from Venezuela who was there before the end of July will now be able to apply for a work permit and be in the United States somewhat legally under this temporary protective status. So that will immediately offer some type of we would say legal status for some of the people that cross into the United States illegally. So it'll be a huge change. And the main reason why this was done is because local authorities in different parts of the U.S., especially in New York, wanted an option for a lot of these migrants who have been waiting in shelters. This means a lot of the ones that have been sitting in shelters waiting to go through their asylum process will now be able to ask for work permits and at least find some type of normal day-to-day life while in the United States, Joe.
You can't ignore the fact this is going to be a huge political issue coming up in the next year. All right, Guad Venegas, thank you so much.
And turning now to Washington, where negotiations have once again stalled among House Republicans over the government spending bill.
For the second time this week, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy brought a vote to the floor to advance a military spending bill in that chamber. That vote failed 216 to 212, with 5 hardline Republicans breaking party lines and voting with Democrats against the bill. McCarthy expressed his frustration following the breakdown of those negotiations yesterday.
It's frustrating in the sense that I don't understand why anybody votes against bringing the idea and having the debate. And then you've got all the amendments if you don't like the bill. This is a whole new concept of individuals that just want to burn the whole place down. That doesn't work.
So here's the deal. Congress now has 1 week to find a solution, but House GOP members left town for the weekend and all votes have been canceled until next week. McCarthy says members will get ample notice if any votes are scheduled. We have NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin with all the details on Capitol Hill, along with NBC News business and data reporter Brian Chung. So, Julie, let's start with you. Speaker McCarthy isn't the only Republican expressing frustration over this spending bill. You've got New York Congressman Mike Lawler, a moderate. He had this to say about the negotiations.
For my colleagues, they have to come to a realization if they're unable or unwilling to govern, others will. There needs to be a realization that you're not going to get everything you want. And just throwing a temper tantrum and stomping your feet, frankly, not only is it wrong, it's just pathetic.
That all, of course, raises the question, could a few Republicans end up working with Democrats to get something passed? Walk us through what happened, Julie, during yesterday's talks that led to the breakdown, and really what is the mood among Republicans right now?
Yeah, who we just heard from was Mike Lawler. He's one of those, we call them Biden 18. They're those vulnerable Republicans in the House. They won districts that President Biden had won, and so they can't afford a government shutdown back home with their constituents. The problem is you have a handful of those conservatives who don't care if the government shut down. I was talking to them yesterday. They said their constituents want them to hold the line on this. And that is one of the dynamics that McCarthy, the speaker, is contending with here, because normally in this situation, you ultimately have lawmakers who come together at the end of the day, even at the 11th hour, the last minute, to try to get something done because they don't want the government to shut down. Of course, it's going to end up costing even more money if it does. But look, yesterday, when we saw this second procedural vote fail on a military bill, this is something that unites Republicans and Democrats, but certainly Republicans have been on the front lines about. That failed. They have nothing else to vote on. They've been going back and forth on top line numbers for a short-term government spending bill. Then they decided we're just going to pass all of our appropriations bills separately. They don't have time for that, though. And so McCarthy canceled the votes despite saying he's going to keep all of them in. They're going to meet again today. Some of the leadership is still around. Some members, like Mike Lawler, like some of those holdouts, have been negotiating late into the night yesterday. We'll see if they could potentially get something together over the weekend, but not looking good.
Deja vu. And Brian, we've seen, of course, huge economic impact from the shutdown and the brink of a shutdown before. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look at historical context, the last government shutdown was at the end of 2018. That lasted into January 2019. It was 35 days, and the estimated impact, according to the Congressional Budget Office, was $11 billion, $3 billion of which was never recovered. So we're talking about a pretty substantial economic hit there, although it's not necessarily large enough to, let's say, for example, tilt us into a recession. Where the impact would be greater felt would be the households of those government workers that would be furloughed. We have to remember that if there is a government shutdown, it's not like every single agency, every single corner of Washington, D.C. is going to be shut down. For the most part, those kind of necessary services, those critical services will still be open, but those more non-essential jobs could end up leading to a lot of furloughs, which in the case of 2018 and 2019 was 300,000 employees. The Fed Chair Jay Powell has said, look, this is not something that's necessarily going to be a big macroeconomic effect, but again, can't discount what this might mean for those government workers that could potentially be out of work during the time that this lasts.
Of course, Julie, that last partial government shutdown was under former President Trump. That one lasted 34 days. So we're hearing from Trump on social media. He's calling for Republicans to continue their holdout over the spending bill. How much influence does it appear he's having over these talks?
Well, a good amount. Look, he talks often with some members of the House Republican Conference, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is one of those holdouts who refuses, who bucked the party line yesterday as well when it comes to that defense bill. And Trump can't help himself but get right in the middle of this, but he also has really nothing to lose. He has no skin in the game here. Any kind of impact on the economy, like Brian just laid out, would only hurt President Biden. Certainly Republicans, though, have taken the blame for shutdowns in the past. And some of those moderates I spoke to expect that this will not bode well politically for them in 2024 either. But Ron DeSantis, the former president's biggest rival, even though he's double digits ahead, he weighed in a couple months ago. He told Republicans to hold firm and not pass anything that would increase spending, that wouldn't decrease it dramatically. You'll remember that Speaker McCarthy already struck a deal with President Biden to keep spending levels at a certain rate. Now some of his members want to go below it, and you hear Trump egging them on. Certainly that is not making things easier for the speaker.
And Brian, let's talk about inflation. Obviously, we've talked about the shutdown, how that could affect it. Also, the Federal Reserve deciding this time around not to raise interest rates, but it's up in the air for November. How does that affect inflation overall?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to the impact of the potential government shutdown on inflation, it's just really hard to model right now. I think the bigger impact would be on the employment side of things, right? I mean, 300,000 employees being furloughed would be really massive to an unemployment rate that at 3.8% is near historic lows. That would be something that, again, as Julie was kind of suggesting, would be a real conundrum for the Biden administration. The Federal Reserve, though, is not going to change policy off of a potential shutdown. It's more likely that they're looking at the confluence of all these other events. You think about a UAW strike that's lasting, that's going into the beginnings of the first week, and other types of dark horse economic events. Those are things that the Federal Reserve are watching and saying, maybe we need to be a little bit cautious here.
All right, Julie Sirkin, Brian Chung, thank you both.
We have new details this morning about the tragic bus crash that killed 2 people and injured dozens more in New York. The bus was headed to Pennsylvania, packed with students attending a marching band camp. Investigators now believe the accident could have been caused by a faulty front tire. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the latest.
A high school bus ride to band camp suddenly taking a terrifying and deadly turn.
Bus rollover eastbound.
All available manpower is needed for your rescue.
The bus careening off a highway in Orange County, New York, tumbling 50 feet down a ravine and into an embankment, plunging the 40 students and 4 adults it was carrying into chaos.
The kid next to me was covered in blood. I saw blood everywhere.
First responders, including medical evacuation helicopters, rushing to the scene. At least 5 students remain in critical condition this morning, according to officials, and 2 adults died in the accident, including the school's band director, 43-year-old Gina Pelletieri, and retired longtime teacher, 77-year-old Beatrice Ferrari. The 2 women, close friends, chaperoning the trip together.
Their friendship was it went beyond teaching.
Ferrari, affectionately known by students as Grandma B, her daughter in utter shock.
She was so passionate about what she did. She loved her students.
Details now emerging about what may have caused the crash.
Preliminary information indicates a failure of a front tire may have been a contributing factor.
The high school students were traveling from Farmingdale on New York's Long Island to Pennsylvania for their annual band camp. The marching band seen here just a week ago, performing their first halftime show of the school year. Patricia Defendini's grandson, who was on board one of the buses, is okay, but waiting for news.
My grandson's friend was one person who was airlifted, so I don't know if he's okay or not.
Edward Hoschler picked up his daughter, a junior who plays the trombone, at a reunification center.
It's surreal. You don't think anything like that's going to happen, but just seeing her. Just seeing her face, it's nothing a parent wants to go through.
Our thanks to Emily Aketa for that report. NBC News has reached out to the parent company that owns the charter bus, which is listed as satisfactory on the Department of Transportation's website, but we have not yet heard back. The NTSB will be on the scene today to start its investigation.
An update now to the manhunt in Missouri for a convicted sex offender who walked out of a hospital. Well, that search has now come to an end. 45-year-old Tommy Wayne Boyd is seen here being taken into custody by U.S. Marshals in St. Louis Thursday night. He had escaped from a hospital that morning while getting medical treatment there. He's currently in the middle of serving a 30-year sentence for sexually assaulting a child. Meanwhile, in Indiana, the search for an escaped murder suspect is intensifying. 28-year-old Kevin Mason was mistakenly released just 2 days after his arrest because of a faulty records review. Now police are expanding that search to surrounding states. Well, he's been the leader of one of the largest and most controversial media empires in the world, and now he is stepping down.
Yesterday, Rupert Murdoch, the Australian press tycoon who reshaped conservative media, announced plans to step down as chairman of Fox Corp and News Corp. The 92-year-old says he will transition into the role of chairman emeritus of the two corporations. For more, we're joined by Washington Post media reporter Will Sommer. Will, good to have you with us. So take us through this decision, stepping down at 92. That may not be terribly surprising, unless you're Rupert Murdoch. Why is he doing this now?
You know, it is interesting. On one hand, as you said, it's not that surprising because he's 92. On the other, it is a bit of a surprise. I mean, this is a guy who had, up until recently, really presented himself as planning to helm News Corp, you know, into the foreseeable future. So it is a surprise. And so, you know, why he's stepping down, honestly, it seems like he's taken a couple hits lately. I mean, certainly Fox had this mammoth, nearly $1 billion settlement with Dominion Voting Systems over election fraud allegations. There are more lawsuits coming down the pike. He fired Tucker Carlson, which has gotten him a lot of backlash from his traditional supporters. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons, along with his age, for Rupert Murdoch to step down now.
And Will Lachlan, Rupert's son, he's now taking over and doing so in some pretty uneasy times. There have been the lawsuits concerning the 2020 election and competition from news organizations that are even further to the right from Fox. So what can you tell us about Lachlan and what will the network look like under his leadership?
Sure. So Lachlan is one of his two sons. And for a while, there was sort of if people remember HBO Succession, there was sort of a Succession style battle over who would control it between him and the other son, James. But ultimately, Lachlan won. James sort of lost interest in the business. Lachlan is seen as, if anything, more conservative, more right wing than his father, perhaps a little less strategic. You know, a lot of Fox News's detractors have been looking at this, people who have followed this closely, and said, if anything, this means we're going to have perhaps a more chaotic, more conservative Fox News. Although ultimately, there are so many factors going into it, it's really hard to predict.
It's hard not to think about the show Succession when you're looking at this transition going on right now. So, Will, you know, Rupert Murdoch oversaw this vast expansion of a worldwide media empire that was often at the center of controversy. In your mind, overall, what is his legacy in this business?
You know, I think on one hand, he's certainly one of the greatest media moguls of the 20th going into the 21st century. You know, really an incredible rise from Australia to just basically sort of, you know, so many outlets in the English-speaking world. On the other hand, I think his critics would say this is a guy who drove conspiracy theories, you know, attacks on democracy, all these things, you know, essentially to make money.
Right. Will Sommer, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, the Hollywood writers' strike could be one step closer to a deal this morning. The Writers Guild of America heading back to the bargaining table with the CEOs of several major studios, including our parent company at NBC Universal. Talks ended Thursday without a deal, but they went much longer than expected, giving some people hope that they could be close. In a message to members, WGA leadership called for a show of strength in front of studio lots and offices set for today. The writers have been on strike for almost 5 months, demanding higher pay, larger staff, and protections around the use of AI.
We're tracking the latest on a potential tropical cyclone, which could bring some heavy rainfall to the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, washing out the weekend.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman is here with that good news. Hey, Angie.
Hey there, guys. I sense the sarcasm, I think. But yes, you're exactly right. Potential tropical cyclone 16. It's a mouthful. And all you need to know is the National Hurricane Center basically says we think this is going to develop. So we give it this name so that we can issue products and watches and warnings. And that's exactly what they've done ahead of the system actually developing into maybe a tropical storm, which it potentially could later this afternoon, hence that name. We've got winds at 50 miles per hour. It is starting to get its act together a little bit. Either way, though, the impacts are not going to change here through at least the next 2 days. We're still going to see that really heavy rain work on shore today for parts of the Carolinas, eventually moving up into portions of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast here over Saturday and even through Sunday. We're going to be talking about this system. But here's the deal today, that rain will work on coastal areas of the Carolinas are going to start to see it first. It'll move up into portions of the mid-Atlantic like Washington, D.C., and eventually the Northeast for tomorrow. But today, the gusty winds, the flood risk will be there with impressive rainfall rates and heavy, heavy rain with some of these tropical downpours working through. We'll also see the issue of high rip current risk and high surf. So obviously a bad weekend for going to the beach, today included. And that goes up to parts of the Northeast as well. That heavy rain is going to spread through on Saturday. We'll have a couple periods of some drier skies here and there, but for the most part, it's going to be quite unsettled. We could potentially see some strong winds and just some really heavy rain that leads to flooding. Those are going to be our main impacts, along with some coastal issues as far as some storm surge. We'll show you that here in a moment, but there's those tropical storm warnings that are in effect from Cape Fear up through Fenwick Island. We're going to see those lasting. They go into effect later this morning, but they're going to last through the next couple of days, and you can see why. Wind gusts expected 50, even 60 miles per hour in some of the highest spots, a little closer to the coast. So no surprise if there's some down branches, some down power lines. Those are things that we'll see a little farther inland, less wind, but still quite gusty at times. And again, that issue along the coast is going to be there through at least the next couple of days. And the flood threat, this is centered over parts of the Carolinas, of course, and up into places like Virginia Beach. The flood watch is in effect through Saturday, because look at these rainfall totals, 2, 3, 4 inches of rain possible in a lot of spots, but localized amounts up to 7 inches. Again, this is mainly focused across parts of Virginia, the Carolinas, closer to the coast where the center of that system will be. And we've got the storm surge that we'll watch for, too, especially when we're talking around high tide times. Places like Virginia Beach, Kill Devil Hills, stretching down to Morehead City, all 2 to 4 feet. Inland areas, maybe 3 to 5 feet. We'll see some issues with that. Something that you'll watch again through at least the next couple of days. We've also got some strong storms that'll be centered across the middle of the country, so heads up for that. If you're looking for the nice weather on Saturday, it's way out west. A good chunk of the western half of the United States is going to see some really dry skies, some bright skies, and it'll stay that way for Sunday. But unfortunately, still trouble spots in the middle of the country again on Sunday, and of course the Northeast. So if you live in those spots, Netflix, I don't know. What movie recommendations do you guys have?
I started watching a Hallmark movie last night, of all things.
Oh, how holiday of you.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fall one. It's autumnal themed, so yeah.
Do we recommend it, or?
I'm halfway through. We'll see.
Report back.
More next week.
More to come. All right. Appreciate that, Angie.
Of course.
Meanwhile, more to come on Morning News Now. And later this hour, an NBC News exclusive, Lizzo pushing back against fresh bullying claims, the new allegations being made by a lawsuit by a former employee.
Up first after the break, the U.S. standing with Ukraine and pledging more than $300 million in additional military aid. What it means for Ukraine's war against Russia. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. The United States is giving Ukraine an additional $325 million in military aid. That deal was announced after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with President Biden at the White House. Now, this latest aid package is in addition to the $43 billion the U.S. has already sent in military aid, and it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the additional $24 billion the White House is asking Congress to authorize. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memley joins us now with the latest on this. Mike, good morning to you. So last year, President Zelensky got a much warmer welcome in Washington. This year, a little bit cooler. Speaker McCarthy raising concerns about the funding that the U.S. has already sent. So how did their meeting end up going?
Yeah, Stephen, you're exactly right. The tone and tenor of President Zelensky's visit to Capitol Hill yesterday could not have been more different than what we saw just 9 months ago. For instance, Speaker McCarthy not even inviting the president to speak to the entire House caucus. We saw, of course, The House quickly passed funding bill last December for Ukraine. That's where some of this money for the aid package that was announced yesterday came from. But just hours after this visit on Capitol Hill, we saw the House again fail to pass a procedural vote in order to move this spending bill forward. Speaker McCarthy made it clear that his caucus, the Republicans in the House, have a lot of questions to President Zelensky. He laid out some of them yesterday. Let's listen.
I thought it was a very good, I thought it was a direct, I thought it was productive. I raised issues with them. We're very concerned about accountability. We're very open of what is needed, what's the direction, what is victory.
A much different reception on the Senate side. More Republicans, including Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, have been supportive of Ukraine getting this funding. Senator Schumer quoting President Zelensky in that conversation behind closed doors, saying, if we don't get this funding, Russia will win this war.
Strong words. Zelensky, though, not walking away from this completely empty-handed, getting that $325 million in military aid. What is that going to include?
Yeah, so this is a kind of an announcement that we see from the administration every few weeks. Of course, they timed it for this Zelensky visit, wanting to make it clear the kind of support that will come moving forward. And this is more conventional weaponry. We're talking about 3 million small arms artillery rounds. We're talking about air defense missile systems and rocket systems, those HIMARS, as well as 59 light tactical vehicles that will be moving into Ukraine. The president also announcing yesterday that Abrams tanks, remember, that's one of those new capabilities that was announced just a few months ago, will be arriving in Ukraine next week. The big question around Zelensky's visit yesterday, whether there will be a new capability delivered to Ukraine. We're talking about those ATACMS ballistic missiles. The president, in his comments yesterday, said that they will be talking about potentially a new sophisticated system. He didn't specify ATACMS. That announcement didn't come yet, but it could come soon.
All right, more to come. Mike Memley, thanks so much.
Armenia and Azerbaijan are holding talks over the fate of the flashpoint region of Nagorno-Karabakh. It has long been a source of conflict between the two countries, dating back to the collapse of the Soviet Union. Azerbaijan regained control of parts of the region from Armenia in 2020 after 6 weeks of fighting. But this week, that conflict was reignited after Azerbaijan launched what it called an anti-terrorist operation. It claimed that 4 of its soldiers and 2 civilians were killed by Armenian-planted mines. Now, Russia helped broker a ceasefire. Now officials from both sides are holding talks, with the status of the region hanging in the balance, along with the fate of Armenians who live there. Hagar Shamali joins us now. She is the host of Oh My World on YouTube, a former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the UN and former NSC director for Syria and Lebanon. I'm so glad to have you with us because we've kind of done quick headlines on this week, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. So talks began yesterday with this region, Nagorno-Karabakh, at the center of discussion. Tell us more about this region and why Armenia and Azerbaijan are at odds here.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually complicated, and it dates back hundreds of years ago. Ethnic Armenians have lived there for centuries, literally centuries. And the area was acquired by Russia in early 1800s. In 1923, Stalin gave this area made it an autonomous oblast. That is a very important point. So every time I hear that Azerbaijan regained this territory, it's not really accurate, because it's been autonomous and self-governed by the ethnic Armenians who've lived there for literally 100 years. And to begin with, it was kind of mistakenly put in Azerbaijan's borders because it was divided by a mountain range, and this was all under the Soviet era. And so this issue that Stalin planted the seeds for, how he put it within Azerbaijan's borders but made it autonomous, is what sowed the seeds for the crisis you have today. When the Soviet Union fell apart, this area wanted to join Armenia. It couldn't, and a war was created, and that is how it became self-governed and gained land beyond Nagorno-Karabakh.
So we've seen decades of conflict, neither side showing willingness to compromise. Right now, what we're seeing, is it history repeating itself? Is there a possible solution here?
So you have a few major things at stake here. Number one, this population has been submitted to surrender through starvation. The dictator of Azerbaijan has been ethnically cleansing this area. He has been targeting this population because of their ethnicity full stop. And it is because he wants them out so that he can have this land for himself. That's literally the definition of ethnic cleansing. So number one, you have at stake continued ethnic cleansing of this population. And that is why you now have thousands who are moving, who have evacuated over the last couple of days. Number two, you risk the destruction of centuries-old monasteries there. That's the other one. The third, the last, is that, and this is significant, this is a message to dictators all over the world and individuals all over the world, that if you repress a minority, and if you commit ethnic cleansing, the world will look the other way and allow it to happen, especially if there are other geopolitical concerns there. And that is what happened here. The U.S. and Europe had the tools to stop the starvation that was happening, and yet they let it continue because of the relationship right now between Azerbaijan and Europe and the U.S. over the war in Ukraine.
So real quickly, what are the consequences here if we don't see a resolution?
It sends a message to dictators all over the world that they can perpetrate war crimes and genocide without any kind of impunity. And the only solution, to be honest with you right now, is sending a UN peacekeeping force to ensure the protection of the individuals there and referring this case of Azerbaijan's dictator to the International Criminal Court.
Any sign that'll happen, the UN?
Unlikely.
All right.
Perhaps the peacekeeping force, but that's it.
All right. Agar, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
More international news now, starting with a war of words between Canada and India after a killing of a Sikh activist on Canadian soil.
NBC News foreign correspondent Kelly Kobiea joins us with that and other world headlines. Kelly, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, guys. The story is not going away. India now escalating the rhetoric once again, calling Canada a safe haven for terrorists after Canada's prime minister doubled down, telling reporters at the UN General Assembly yesterday that there are credible reasons to believe the Indian government may have been involved in a Sikh activist's murder on Canadian soil. India called the claims absurd. It had designated the murdered activist a terrorist in 2020, but his supporters dispute that. They say he was peacefully advocating for an independent Sikh state in India. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. has deep concerns about the allegations and is talking to both Canada and India about this. In the Philippines, a thick smog and sulfur dioxide from a volcano has forced officials to close schools in 5 cities near Manila and urge people to stay inside. The Taal volcano is one of the most active of 24 volcanoes in the Philippines and last erupted in January of 2020. And here's an odd one. In Serbia, a lion cub just a few weeks old was found wandering on the side of a road near the border with Hungary. The female cub was malnourished and weak, not at all afraid of people. And police are looking into this. They haven't said why it was wandering on the side of the road, but wildlife animal smuggling is apparently common in the area. That cub is now at a zoo and is being nursed back to health, guys.
At least that is good to see right there. All right, Kelly, thank you so much. Coming up, convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh back in court and pleading guilty to a new set of crimes. We're going to bring you the latest there.
Plus, Google facing fallout after a woman says bad directions from Google Maps are to blame for her husband's death. More on that lawsuit just filed next on Morning News Now. Welcome back, and now to that new lawsuit against Google. A woman in North Carolina says bad directions from Google Maps led to the death of her husband. NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward has more on what went wrong and who may be responsible.
The family of a man who died in a tragic car accident is now suing Google, saying the company's Maps app caused him to drive off a broken-down bridge in North Carolina.
I just struggle every day to understand how something so unimaginable and horrific could be allowed to happen.
It's been nearly a year since the dark and rainy night that beloved father of 2, Phil Paxson, was driving home alone after celebrating his daughter's birthday when, his family alleges, Google Maps navigated him to the Snow Creek Bridge. He did not know and could not see, according to the suit. The bridge, located on a private road, had long since collapsed, leaving a gaping hole and swirling waters below. The next day, Paxson's vehicle was found overturned in the creek with Paxson drowned. Lawyers for Paxson's wife, Alicia, say the accident was avoidable. According to the lawsuit, 1 year before the fatal accident, a different Google Maps user alerted the service twice that the bridge had washed away years before, saying the landowners around the bridge, quote, refused to fix it and that GPS sends people down here, which is especially dangerous for emergency vehicles. Those alleged owners are being sued alongside Google, referred to as the bridge defendants in the lawsuit.
Those responsible for our roadways need to know that inaction has consequences. We allege the bridge defendants failed to maintain adequate guards, warning signs, and the like to alert drivers.
Arguments echoed in their client's complaint. The alleged landowners did not respond to our request for comment.
If they failed to put any warning signs or even barriers to prevent people from driving on a bridge that had no end to it, then that's a stronger case for negligence.
Google telling NBC News, quote, we have the deepest sympathies for the Paxson family. Our goal is to provide accurate routing information and maps, and we are reviewing this lawsuit.
The key to this case is the plaintiffs proving that Google had a duty to this driver. Specifically, did Google undertake not only to give people directions, but also guarantee that they were safe directions?
Paxson's wife telling NBC affiliate WCNC she hopes the lawsuit can bring some closure.
We owe it to Phil and to his girls and to this community to find some sort of justice, if that's possible, and just to ensure that no other tragedy like this happens to any other family and any other senseless loss of life.
And our thanks to Jake Ward for that reporting. By the way, that bridge where Phil Paxson died has actually been damaged for about a decade. The local officials and Department of Transportation in that state say they don't have the authority to fix the street because it's private, but reports show that if you look closely on Google Maps, that they can tell you that the road there is closed.
In other news, convicted killer Alec Murdaugh appeared in a South Carolina courtroom Thursday to plead guilty to 22 federal fraud and money laundering charges. Federal prosecutors say the disgraced former lawyer cheated clients out of money and created fake bank accounts. As part of his plea deal, Murdaugh will have to pay back at least $9 million of that. Prosecutors say he stole from clients. Murdaugh could face a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. He's currently serving life without parole for killing his wife and son.
Pop superstar Lizzo is facing new legal trouble this morning from one of her former employees. According to exclusive NBC News reporting, a former fashion designer for the singer alleges that while on tour, team members were mocked and bullied by a wardrobe manager, and that Lizzo allowed behavior like harassment and racial discrimination to go on backstage.
Lizzo has pushed back against the allegations, with a spokesperson saying in a statement, quote, we will pay this as much attention as it deserves, none, noting that just yesterday the singer received a humanitarian award from the Black Music Action Coalition. The attorney representing the former fashion designer also represents the 3 former dancers who sued Lizzo earlier this year for a toxic work environment. Lizzo has denied those allegations, calling the dancers' accounts false and outrageous. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Andy Sabalos for more on this. You saw him just a moment ago. We're bringing him back here in person again. So let's just talk about this latest lawsuit against Lizzo. How significant is this here, and how directly could she be held accountable for something that maybe someone else on her team allegedly did?
Lizzo is one of several defendants, but under California law, it is possible to hold an employer strictly liable, and that means automatically liable for the bad conduct of her employees, and that's in the discrimination context. But it's important to note that this complaint, and I've read the complaint, alleges a lot of unpleasant work environments. But the thing is this. Even in an environment that is very unpleasant, even in an environment that is stressful at work, is not necessarily a discriminatory environment or a hostile work environment. In fact, just because you may feel that your workplace is hostile doesn't mean it's legally a hostile work environment and therefore illegal. So the burden for plaintiffs is always a tough one.
So there's been a lot of discussion around this, the PR fallout for it, but where does the actual lawsuit? I mean, they said they want to just ignore this. They can't ignore a lawsuit. Where does it go from here?
They can't, and they won't. They will certainly answer the pleading. They'll file an answer to the pleading within 30 days. Maybe they'll get an extension, but they'll answer it. They may not care about it from a PR perspective, and that might be the prudent course, just ignore it. But it will not go away. You have to answer it as a defendant, you have to litigate it, and you have to come up with an affirmative defense, which is essentially, as an employer, Lizzo's going to have to argue that, hey, either I wasn't aware of this, or to the extent that we have these provisions in place, these procedures, the plaintiff didn't take advantage of those. But if you read the allegations in the complaint, allegedly she made plenty of complaints, and that is a pretty key factor in these cases.
All right, Danny Savalos, we'll see what happens. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Well, coming up, the dangers of delivery.
A new report shows a number of Amazon contractors have been shot since last year. More on the incidents raising concerns about safety. You're watching Morning News Now.
Welcome back. We're taking a look now at the independent contractors Amazon uses to deliver packages, often at some pretty odd hours. A report from The Information, which is a tech and business publication, found that 5 flex drivers have been shot in 4 separate incidents just since last year, and that is raising questions about their safety. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has more.
At the heart of Amazon's success is speed. More deliveries, faster, at all times of the day. To make that happen, the company relies, at least in part, on a program called Flex.
Amazon Flex is a program where independent contractors can go pick up delivery routes.
Independent contractors makes it sound very official. These are just regular people, right?
Yeah.
Regular people like George Hunt, who drive their own cars to make deliveries, often either very early or very late.
Almost your entire shift is in the dark.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I beat the sunrise every morning when I'm done.
Good job! The extra cash helping his young family, which is how he ended up making a delivery around 4:30 a.m. on the south side of Chicago in 2022. Outside the car with package in hand, he heard the engine rev behind him.
I kind of turned around almost dumbfounded. I'm not piecing together this is literally a carjacking happening.
And then he says the carjacker pulled a gun.
He fired one shot. It hit me in the shoulder. I heard more shots.
One bullet went through his leg. The other lodged just short of his spinal cord. His story, one of several uncovered by a report in The Information, a tech and business publication, raising questions about flex drivers' safety.
They're not required to wear vests. They use their own cars. And if bad things happen to them on the job, generally Amazon says, it's not our fault. You're not our employee.
Reporter Theo Waite found 5 flex drivers shot in 4 separate incidents since 2022. 5 others he spoke with said they had guns drawn on them by homeowners, and he found dozens of unverified accounts in chat groups.
Homeowners were just seeing someone drive up in an unmarked car and being, baffled about who this person could be in their driveway.
Basically, homeowners are coming out scared.
Right, that's right.
In a statement, Amazon says these incidents with guns are tragedies, but are exceedingly rare. Adding safety is a priority, and the company is continually investing to protect drivers. Flex drivers choose among available routes, and an app allows them to communicate directly with customers. They can refuse to deliver a package if they arrive and feel unsafe, according to company policy.
While we technically had the right to refuse a route, we risked deactivation.
Hunt says this sign was posted at the delivery station last year when he was shot. You may choose to leave the route, but will not be given another, it says. The sign was removed more than a year and a half ago and was a violation of company policy, according to Amazon. Now Hunt is suing for workers' compensation to pay his medical bills. And he moved his family to South Bend, Indiana, where he continues to pick up routes for Amazon, staying extra vigilant.
My wife and I are saving to buy a house. I mean, any extra money certainly helps.
The money, he says, is good, and his family needs it. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, South Bend, Indiana.
Now for financial headlines, and a big change that could mean medical bills no longer affect your credit score.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and more. Good morning, Silvana.
Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Joe. Yeah, so listen to this. A change could be coming that could improve the credit score of millions of Americans. The Biden administration announced new regulations that would wipe medical bills from credit reports. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates about 1 in 5 Americans have medical debt on their reports. That can lower credit scores, which can in turn limit options for housing loans and credit cards. Good luck if you're trying to move to certain parts of California or New York. A new analysis from Moving Feedback looked at Zillow data and found the top 5 U.S. cities where homes are selling above asking price. At At the very top of the list, two Bay Area cities, Vallejo and San Francisco. They're followed by Rochester, New York, San Jose, California, and Ithaca, New York. In Vallejo alone, houses usually went nearly 2% above asking. And next fall, WWE fans will have something to celebrate. In October of 2024, Friday Night SmackDown will return to USA Network, which is owned by our parent company, NBC Universal. The deal comes out to an average of $287 million over 5 years, which is roughly 40% higher than its current deal on Fox. WWE does not expect to reach a rights agreement for its flagship show, Raw, until next year.
Got it. So to quote The Rock, USA will be layeth the smacketh down.
That's what he says, I believe. That's right.
Is
yeah.
one of his quotes.
It's a quote.
Savannah, huge wrestling fan. I know you are.
I see, of course.
Thanks so much.
Coming up, a sinking skyline, a major city now being called a silent hazard by researchers.
When we return, the new study shedding light on the impacts of climate change. That's coming up on Morning News Now.
Welcome back. NASA scientists are eagerly awaiting a sample from an asteroid which is set to hurtle through the skies and land on Earth Sunday. NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is set to release a capsule containing the precious cargo, about 8.8 ounces, both asteroid rocks and soil, which were collected from the asteroid Bennu. It's due to crash into the Utah desert around 10 a.m. Eastern. The agency is especially excited because this will give them a chance to study material that existed before our planet and perhaps even before our solar system, helping to unlock some of the mysteries of the universe. Pretty cool stuff.
Very cool. I love a good space mystery.
Exactly.
Thanks for that, Joe.
Yep.
And finally, this hour, when you hear the phrase sinking cities, you might think of places like Venice, Italy. Well, the American Midwest is actually what we're talking about now, all due to climate change. You no longer have to travel overseas to find one of those cities. Researchers saying there's a new risk lurking below one of America's most iconic skylines. NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett has the details.
Beneath Chicago's iconic architecture, living labs are tracking how heat could make a city sink.
We are measuring temperature in underground environments to basically monitor the amounts of heat that are continuously rejected in the ground.
Hundreds of these sensors are giving us a new look into what researchers are calling a silent hazard.
We found out that Chicago, as many other major global cities, is affected by a phenomenon that is called underground climate change.
Professor Alessandro Rodoloria and his Northwestern research team installed these sensors beneath the surface in parking garages, subway tunnels, and basement boiler rooms, which found temperature variations are causing significant stress in the infrastructure that supports the city's skyline.
For Chicago, the worst has already happened in the sense that there is already a significant amount of heat beneath our feet, and this heat has caused the ground to deform already.
Their study highlights that this element of climate change is different than what we see above ground and poses a risk for the foundation of urban cities globally. Researchers say more heat trapped in the ground has serious potential to interrupt our day-to-day. Top concerns are public health, the safety of the buildings we work in and visit, and how it could slow down your daily commute. Which is why Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says projects to mitigate this new climate challenge need to be happening now.
Is there a sense of how best to source energy-efficient materials to then mitigate this issue?
Some of it is federally funded. We're partnering with states on this because it may be that something down to the kind of cement or steel or asphalt that you're using for the 21st century needs to look a little different than what we learned to build with 100 years ago.
It'll take an investment, but the underground heat found here can be repurposed as a thermal energy source for the buildings above.
There is a technology, there are the spaces to do that. The key thing is the willingness.
Because this problem is bigger than just Chicago.
It's the direct consequence of human presence on Earth.
Maura Barrett, NBC News, Chicago.
Of course, we're approaching the end of Climate Week. So many issues to look at. Thanks to Maura for that report. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But your news continues right now. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Stephen Romo in for Savannah Sellers.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, border crisis. A new influx of migrants is straining resources in communities at the southern border, with the city of Eagle Pass, Texas, forced to declare a state of emergency. Hoping to stem the tide, the Biden administration now sending hundreds of troops to the region. We have full coverage on the ground of this near-record surge and the crisis that is fueling it all. Growing strike. The clock is ticking closer to a deadline that could see the ongoing auto workers strike become even larger. We'll have an update on the negotiations between the union and Detroit's Big Three, and when we could see even more workers walk off the job. Plus, line of succession. After reshaping the news landscape, Rupert Murdoch is stepping down as the chair of Fox Corp and News Corp. The 92-year-old's resignation marking the end of one of the most storied and controversial careers in modern media. We're digging into his complicated legacy and what comes next for his media empire. And it's Friday. That means it's time for your can't miss list. We're taking you through the biggest names at the box office and streaming, including the return of Sylvester Stallone and the rest of the crew in the Expendables 4. A lot of folks will be heading to the... I know.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, I guess I missed 3 altogether.
2 and 3. There we go. All right. More on that in a little bit. Let's begin, though, with the growing crisis at the border.
Yeah, officials say illegal migrant crossings are on the rise yet again, and it's draining resources in some border communities. NBC News Now anchor Tom Yamas is on the Texas border now with the latest.
Here in the town of Eagle Pass, Texas, they are still shell-shocked over what happened this week. That crush of migrants which forced DHS, Border Patrol, and even the U.S. military to get down here and to help. And it's not over. We just saw a wave of migrants come through here earlier this morning to go and be processed. So the big question is, why now and why so many? The migrants we spoke to overnight said they were told rumors that the border was open over here, and they're not completely wrong, even though, yes, there is barbed wire. Earlier this week, there were vast stretches that were left completely unguarded, and thousands of migrants illegally crossed over.
This morning, border towns across America being pushed to the limit again. Tens of thousands of migrants crossing illegally, part of a surge that started earlier this week. Scenes like this, lines of migrants, mostly from Venezuela, crossing through barbed wire and across the Rio Grande, forcing Eagle Pass, Texas, to declare a state of emergency.
You heard they were allowing mothers with children.
Migrants we spoke to say this surge was fueled by rumors that the border was open. This mother tells me she crossed the Rio Grande with her 7- and 2-year-old daughters, carrying them on her shoulders. But they're the lucky ones. A 3-year-old child swept away in a similar crossing on Wednesday and drowning. And just yesterday, Texas officials pulling another body from the river.
We know this problem had slowly been growing, but why is it so bad this week?
The facts are that the cartels control who goes where and when, and they determined that this week was the week it's going to happen.
The Biden administration now sending 800 military personnel to the border to help process the arrivals.
It is a crisis. It's something that is out of control.
In Eagle Pass, a town of less than 30,000, they had 2,500 illegal crossings in a single day.
So what do you need here?
Everything. We need kids' clothing, women's clothing, shampoo, hygiene items.
Valeria Wheeler runs the only shelter in Eagle Pass, and it just opened this week. With little room and few resources, most of the migrants she's helping stay for a few hours before heading to big cities like New York and Chicago, which now are also overwhelmed.
We're a very small town. There's a lot of resources that are needed, not only for us, for the community, for the city, for the county. And this is a very, very impoverished county.
Because of those scenes in New York City with the shelters overwhelmed and migrants even having to stay in hotels, the Biden administration has granted temporary protected status to nearly 500,000 Venezuelans. Basically, that allows them to work legally and support themselves and hopefully relieve some of the stress we've seen in cities like New York City. But others have criticized the move, saying by doing this, you're only going to entice more migrants to try to cross over here. Reporting from Eagle Pass, Tom Yamas. Now back to you.
Complicated stuff. Tom, thank you.
Maverick County Sheriff Tom Schmerber joins us now. Sheriff, good to have you with us. So Tom just mentioned this. Eagle Pass, fewer than 30,000 people there. You recently had 2,500 illegal crossings. Just what's the situation right now? How are you managing this latest surge?
It is terrible. We don't have the manpower to cover the whole border. We're talking about 74 miles, talking about limited manpower with the Sheriff Department. And I know the Border Patrol agents are tied up processing because I have a friends still. I used to be in the Border Patrol. I still have some friends, and they say that they're tied up processing. So actually, on the river, it's very open. So it's unbelievable. Never thought I was going to see this situation here in Eagle Pass, Murray County.
Yeah, just seeing the video of all those people is surprising when the town is so small. Sheriff, one of the two international bridges, they were shut down to try to reroute personnel. Does that seem to be helping or having an effect there?
Well, they closed one. We have two boards. They closed one, the old one, and the other one, the second one, which is close to that place where the immigrants are crossing. It's open. It's open for vehicles and pedestrians. On the other one, on the first one, on the upriver from this bridge, they can cross, but only pedestrians, no vehicles on that one.
So, Sheriff, what would help? What are the resources you feel you need right now? Are you getting what you need?
No. Well, actually, Texas, the governor did send a lot of troopers, it's a lot of help, and the National Guard. They helped a lot because when it started, I was getting calls from ranchers and so forth that the immigrants were crossing and cutting for fences, and the livestock would get out the highways. But I never, up till now, I haven't heard anything from the government, from the administration, the Biden administration. Usually, when something's going to happen, they go to the sheriff's office and advise them. But what we need is more. We have agents, border agents working up north. Why not bring them over here if they can do the processing? Since they don't know the area, and let our agents be out there in the river and work in the river.
You might have heard our Tom Yamas just mention that the migrants who are coming say they hear the rumor the border is open. Is the border open right now?
To me, it is open, and it is true. Those rumors go all the way up to other countries, and they come all at once, And of course, the criminal element take advantage, I mean, they're making money one way or the other, either with drugs or with the people, the immigrants.
So what's your biggest worry right now?
Mine is the priority is the security of my county, because not everybody crossing are here for, make a better life, but some are taking advantage and some are going to be crossing with crossing drugs. Plus, the majority of those immigrants, don't have any skills. So what I'm worried is that eventually, they won't have any means to support themselves on this side. And that's going to happen. Gangs are going to be created, burglaries and so forth, because they're going to be desperate. No skills means a little problem for us here in the States.
All right. Sheriff Tom Schmerber, thank you so much for joining us at this time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
An investigation is underway in New York following a deadly bus crash involving high school marching band students. At least 2 people were killed. Dozens more were injured. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the details.
A high school bus ride to band camp suddenly taking a terrifying and deadly turn.
Bus rollover eastbound.
All available manpower is needed for your rescue.
The bus careening off a highway in Orange County, New York, tumbling 50 feet down a ravine and into an embankment, plunging the 40 students and 4 adults it was carrying into chaos.
The kid next to me was covered in blood. I saw blood everywhere.
First responders, including medical evacuation helicopters, rushing to the scene. At least 5 students remain in critical condition this morning, according to officials, and 2 adults died in the accident, including the school's band director, 43-year-old Gina Pelletieri, and retired longtime teacher, 77-year-old Beatrice Ferrari. The 2 women, close friends, chaperoning the trip together.
Their friendship it went beyond teaching.
Ferrari, affectionately known by students as Grandma B, her daughter in utter shock.
She was so passionate about what she did. She loved her students.
Details now emerging about what may have caused the crash.
Preliminary information indicates a failure of a front tire may have been a contributing factor.
The high school students were traveling from Farmingdale on New York's Long Island to Pennsylvania for their annual band camp. The marching band seen here just a week ago, performing their first halftime show of the school year. Patricia Defendini's grandson, who was on board one of the buses, is okay, but waiting for news.
My grandson's friend was one person who was airlifted, so I don't know if he's okay or not.
Edward Hoschler picked up his daughter, a junior who plays the trombone, at a reunification center.
It's surreal. You don't think anything like that's going to happen, but just seeing her. Just seeing her face, it's nothing a parent wants to go through.
Our thanks to Emily Aketa for that report. NBC News has reached out to the parent company that owns the charter bus, which is listed as satisfactory on the Department of Transportation's website, but we have not heard back yet. The NTSB will be on the scene today to investigate.
All right, now to that big announcement shaking up the media world. Fox and News Corp chairman Rupert Murdoch says he's stepping down from his position, marking the end of one of the most storied and controversial careers in the industry. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk digs into what that may mean for the future of the media giant.
Media mogul Rupert Murdoch is passing the torch, retiring and putting son Lachlan in charge of both Fox Corporation and News Corp.
Rupert Murdoch created all of this and so much more across America and the globe.
In a letter to employees, Murdoch offered little explanation. The time is right, he says, to take on different roles, adding, "Our companies are in robust health, as am I." The 92-year-old, who has used his influence to shape politics for decades, stepping away as the U.S. prepares for another presidential election. And just months after Fox settled a defamation lawsuit for nearly $800 million with Dominion Voting Systems over false election claims.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight.
Fox News also just fired one of its biggest stars, Tucker Carlson.
If we want to hold on to this company, for us, we have to go into battle with our own version of the future.
The family that inspired the HBO series Succession now playing out the drama in real life. Lachlan Murdoch taking charge of the massive media empire, which controls Fox News and Fox Sports, as well as publications like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post. A small cry from the handful of newspapers Rupert Murdoch took over in his early 20s in Australia. The self-proclaimed news hound started collecting TV stations and newspapers, eventually launching a TV network in the U.S. to challenge the big three. Then came Fox News, a cable news channel catering to conservatives.
We've now reached this moment when we can firmly announce the starting of a Fox News channel.
Is Fox News now? It steered the political conversation and often launched political careers. All the while, Murdoch showing no signs of wanting to retire.
I just love it. I have very busy days, and it keeps me stimulated, keeps me curious. That's the way to stay young.
This morning, his new title is Chairman Emeritus, but he also made a promise. Stepping down doesn't mean he will be very far away.
And our thanks to Stephanie Gosk for that report. Industry experts, by the way, think any major change in direction at Fox News is unlikely, with Lachlan Murdoch not looking to rock the boat too much, at least for now.
Turning now to the crippling United Auto Workers strike, which in just a few hours is set to get even bigger. The union is promising more workers at even more sites are going to walk off the job at noon today. For more, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa, who is in Toledo, Ohio. So, Maggie, let's start with these new walkouts. Where could they be? How big could the strike get today?
Yeah, so, Joe, those are, as you can imagine, the questions of the morning. But frankly, union leadership is keeping everybody, including us, the big three, and seemingly its own members, guessing until the very last minute. Again, as you said, we're in Toledo. We're in front of the Stellantis plant. We've been talking to people on the picket lines. Auto workers here, they say they have no idea how many more members will walk out at noon today and where those new strikes will be. And of course, that presumably is a tactic by UAW leadership to, again, keep the big three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler owner Stellantis in the dark, keep them guessing while these tense negotiations drag on. Remember, right now we're talking about a targeted strike for the last week. We're a week in at this point from 3 plants, roughly 13,000 members on the picket lines. They could choose to basically double that and do something similar again. They could go bigger. They could go for major hubs like engine plants, which would cause production issues across the board. Here comes a big supporter, as you can hear. So really, it's anybody's guess at this moment, Joe. But again, noon today is that new deadline.
So, Maggie, negotiations are tense enough already. Now we've got these leaked private messages reportedly between top UAW leadership. What more can you tell us about that?
Right. This as if these needed to get more tense, as you point out. Basically, the Detroit News, a newspaper here in the area, reporting this. We should point out NBC News has not been able to independently see and verify these messages, but they say these are private messages from X, a.k.a. formerly Twitter, between top UAW leadership. And I want to directly quote this here. The paper reporting a UAW spokesman talked about using bargaining sessions amid these negotiations to, quote, inflict recurring reputations damage and operational chaos on the big three, adding, quote, if we can keep them wounded for months, they don't know what to do. I reached out directly to that spokesman. We've been talking back and forth throughout these negotiations. He's also a key advisor to UAW President Shawn Fain. We have not heard back from him at this point, but perhaps no surprise, all three of the big three blasting these messages overnight. I just want to read one statement from GM. They say, quote, it's now clear that the UAW leadership has always intended to cause months-long disruption regardless of the harm it causes. So basically more bad blood amid these negotiations thanks to these reportedly leaked messages, Joe.
Yeah, so we've got that bad blood. We're on the verge of the strike getting even larger. Just set the stage for us. Where do the talks stand right now? Are there any signs of progress?
The only sign of progress that we've seen over the last 2 days is, as you know, Stellantis issuing that new offer a couple of days ago. That is according to another supporter there. Here comes another one. UAW leadership saying that they had gotten that new offer from Stellantis. They didn't reveal any details about what's in the offer or how it's being received by union leadership, but we haven't heard about any semblance of an impending vote on that offer, so it doesn't seem like substantial progress on that front. And as far as Ford and GM goes, at last check, they were still miles apart. So we have no reason to believe there will be substantive progress, at least by noon today, and potentially not even over the next several days. So a long way to go from what we can tell. Joe.
All right, Maggie Vespa, who has mastered the art of the live shot amid honking horns. Maggie, thank you so much.
Very skillful, Maggie. Well, now to the Midwest. Police in Indiana are intensifying the manhunt for a murder suspect who they say was accidentally released from jail several days ago. Now, nearby residents are voicing their anger that they are just now being told about this. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park is in Indianapolis now with the latest on this. A lot of outrage there.
Hey, Stephen. Good morning to you. Yeah, Kevin Mason, the suspect, walked out of the jail behind me 9 days ago. The leads continue to pour in, and this new flyer shows a reward of up to $10,000, leading to the arrest of a murder suspect still on the run. Meanwhile, the manhunt that gripped St. Louis all day yesterday ended overnight without incident.
This morning, convicted sex offender Tommy Boyd back in custody, hours after leaving a St. Louis hospital. Police writing, this arrest was a culmination of local, state, and federal law enforcement collaborating to keep our public safe. The 45-year-old, who is serving a 30-year sentence for sexually assaulting a child, was seen here on surveillance video early Thursday, casually walking out, despite the hospital saying Boyd was being guarded by 2 corrections officers when he escaped.
He is considered to be dangerous.
The warning prompted local schools to boost security and cancel after-school activities. Meanwhile, in Indiana, authorities are ramping up the search for murder suspect Kevin Mason. It's been more than a week since he was accidentally released from jail.
We will not stop and we will not sleep until he is brought back into custody.
U.S. Marshals now offering a $10,000 reward. And officials in Indianapolis say their search is expanding to other cities.
We're following leads within Indianapolis. It also led us to information that he may not be within Indianapolis. So we're running down all leads right now.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office says a 28-year-old was mistakenly released last Wednesday, 2 days after his arrest, due to a clerical error. Mason was wanted on 3 warrants in Minnesota, including a second-degree murder charge for his alleged role in a shooting in 2021.
It makes me want to lock the door if that's the case, if there's someone out here.
Authorities arrested Mason's girlfriend, who they say picked him up after he walked out of jail. They also waited 6 days to alert the community of his accidental release, calling it a tactical move.
Do you still stand by that decision to wait 6 days to alert the community?
I think our decision to do that, absolutely. What we had at the time and the information we had at the time, that was the best option that we had.
But that's not sitting well with some residents.
They should have notified everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
And not just waited 6 days.
6 days, that's a long time.
That gave him a chance to get away.
And as of this morning, it's still unclear if Kevin Mason is still in Indianapolis. Officials not clarifying exactly where they are searching. They did say anyone who might be helping him will also be criminally charged. Stephen?
Almost a week. All right, Kathy Park, thank you.
Let's get to the latest on that potential tropical cyclone, which could mean some heavy rain and even some flooding this weekend.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with more on that. Hey, Angie.
Hey, good morning, guys. We've got a couple of things on top of the flooding, too. With the heavy rain, yes, the flooding, but also the gusty winds, issues out at the coast. So really kind of an annoying weekend across a big area in the east, on the East Coast. Here's what we're dealing with right now. We've got a whole lot of rain starting to push onto places up and down the Carolina coast here. That's where we're first going to see, especially North Carolina, those biggest impacts through at least the early morning to mid-morning and late morning hours today. We'll start to see some of that rain working into places like Virginia, up into parts of the mid-Atlantic. But right now, potential tropical cyclone 16 has winds of 50 miles per hour. We're expecting this to strengthen a bit more. We're not looking at rapid intensification with this system. We're not looking at a hurricane here, but we could potentially see a tropical storm maybe by later today. Either way, whether that happens or not, the impacts aren't going to change. We're still going to see the heavy rain, the gusty winds, the issues out at the coast, and that's going to be something that we'll have to deal with not just today, but for a lot of folks, big populations for a couple of days. So let's time all that out for you. Those tropical downpours working into portions of the mid-Atlantic today, really from just north of Charleston all the way up to just south of Washington, D.C. through the afternoon hours today. We're going to be seeing the heavy rain, especially out towards the coast. You can see some of those reds, those oranges. That indicates really heavy rain, and we're expecting impressive rainfall rates. So no surprise if we see some flooding with this. Here's a look at Saturday. A soggy one from New York to Boston, Washington, D.C., down through portions of Virginia. You'll all be included in still dealing with that rain. It shifts a little farther to the north and impacts parts of the Northeast and New England as we get into Sunday. So a couple of days of some really soggy conditions for a lot of folks. We've got the tropical storm warnings up for that same region that's going to be impacted today. Wind gusts anywhere 30, 40, close to 60 miles per hour, a little farther towards the coast. So just an FYI on that. I think power outages will mainly be kind of sporadic, scattered, but still you could see some of those down branches, down wires through the day today in those areas with those strongest wind gusts. And look at these rainfall amounts. By the time we get through Sunday, so the next 3 days, New York, 1 to 2 inches. We see a widespread area where the orange is, including 3 inches, and some of those higher amounts could be closer to 7 inches. That, again, likely to be closer to the coast. You can see the areas that we're looking at. Parts of coastal North Carolina are going to see the greatest chance of that flash flood risk through the day today. Tomorrow moves a little farther to the north. So really Wilmington up through Boston has a chance for flash flooding. That's something you're going to want to, of course, pay attention to if you plan on getting out the door and out and about at all on Saturday in that region. Reminder just not to drive through those flooded roadways. And on top of that, with the heavy rain and the wind-driven storm surge, we could be looking at some issues, not just right along the coast, but in some of these rivers as well across that region. 2 to 4 feet possible for places like Virginia Beach, down through Morehead City. Some spots maybe a little higher than that, a little farther inland you go for those rivers. And then places like Myrtle Beach, 1 to 3 feet. Ocean City, 1 to 3 feet. So just an FYI heads up for folks that are in that area. And also, if you live in the center of the country, we're not leaving you out from the storms. Just a little bit of a different kind of storm system that we're tracking. That'll be impacting you through Saturday, and it doesn't move a whole lot on Sunday, just a little farther to the east. If you're looking for the good news, you got to travel west, guys. I don't know. Phoenix looks great this time of year.
Yeah, no kidding.
Even though it's a little warm, into the 90s for the weekend, I think a whole lot of sunshine. Who could complain about that?
Yeah, over all the rain. Yeah, all right. Angie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up, lost and found. A man who was missing at sea for days gets the chance to thank those who saved him face to face.
Pretty incredible. But first, we're getting new insight into that F-35 fighter jet that led to a massive search after it vanished before crashing in South Carolina. What the newly released 911 tapes are telling us about what happened to the pilot after he was forced to eject. That's next. Welcome back. We turn now to that bizarre and extraordinary story of the F-35 fighter jet that caused a huge search after it eventually crashed in South Carolina earlier this week. New 911 recordings reveal what happened to the pilot after he was forced to eject from that aircraft. NBC's Blaine Alexander joins us now with more on this story. A real head-scratcher there, Blaine.
Well, Stephen, this really is just an incredible sequence of events, especially as we learn more and more about what happened. At times during that 911 call, it sounded like the dispatcher herself was having a hard time making sense of exactly what she was hearing. Now this morning, for the first time, we're hearing from the pilot in his own words about that incredible story of survival.
I guess we got a pilot at our house, and he says he got ejected.
This morning, a dramatic 911 call is giving new insight into a $100 million mystery. What caused an F-35 fighter jet to go missing, then crash in rural South Carolina? The pilot ejected and landed in the backyard of a home near North Charleston earlier this week. The stunned homeowner called 911.
I'm sorry, what happened?
We got a pilot in the house, and I guess he landed in my backyard, and we were trying to see if we could get a ambulance to the house, please.
Then the pilot took the phone.
How old is the patient?
47. So we had a military jet crash. I'm the pilot. We need to get rescue rolling. I'm not sure where the airplane is. It would have crash landed somewhere. I ejected.
The 47-year-old pilot described a harrowing escape.
How far did he fall?
I was at 2,000 feet.
Okay, and what caused the fall?
An aircraft failure.
The Marine Corps says the pilot ejected around 1:30 Sunday afternoon, and residents reported feeling their homes shaking after 2, meaning the plane could have been flying on autopilot for more than a half hour. The pilot ejected in North Charleston, but the jet ended up 80 miles away in Williamsburg County.
Usually airplanes, other military aircraft in which the pilot ejected, the airplane will fly for a while, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. But several minutes, that is surprising.
According to Department of Defense officials, the pilot was taken to the hospital and released on Monday. A stunning story of survival after that mysterious crash. Now, the Marine Corps says that crash site is secure, including the airspace above it. Stephen, officials say that investigation will take several months. Back to you.
Justin, I thought it couldn't get more shocking. All right, Blaine, thanks.
International headlines now. British prosecutors have authorized charges against 5 people accused of spying for Russia.
NBC News foreign correspondent Kelly Kobiea joins us now with that and more. Good morning, Kelly.
That's right. Good morning. 5 Bulgarian nationals now accused of spying for Russia here in the UK. They allegedly gathered information for the Russian security services between August of 2020 and February of this year. The Metropolitan Police investigated this. They said they were conducting surveillance on targets in the UK and in Europe. One of the accused was an award-winning beautician who ran a business called Pretty Woman and judged eyelash competitions. All 5 have yet to enter pleas. They appear in court on Tuesday. A big win for women's rights in India. The government voting to reserve 1/3 of all parliamentary seats for female politicians. That bill was first introduced in 1996, and it failed to pass 6 times until this week. It could take years, though, to implement because it depends on census results. The census was delayed in 2021 because of the pandemic, and it still hasn't been rescheduled. And finally, this Friday, some good news, guys. African rhino numbers are rising. There were more than 23,000 rhinos on the continent at the end of last year. That's up 5%, despite poaching numbers remaining steady. Officials credit habitat management and breeding programs for the increase, the first increase in 11 years. Yes, still more work to be done, but happy news on what is World Rhino Day today.
Very cool.
Happy World Rhino Day,
Happy
guys.
World Rhino Day, Kelly. Thank you so much. Also, no clue there were eyelash competitions, so we learned a lot in that segment there. All right.
Same.
Exactly. Kelly, thanks so much.
Well, coming up, a high-profile custody battle is grabbing international headlines.
Why Sophie Turner is now suing soon-to-be ex-husband Joe Jonas, and the major legal questions it is raising. Welcome back. Relations between Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas appear to have hit a new low, with the two entangled in an increasingly difficult divorce. Now, Turner has filed a lawsuit to have their two young kids returned to England with her. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas joins us with the latest details. Chloe, good morning.
Good morning. Well, Joe Jonas filed for divorce just a few weeks ago, but now Sophie Turner filing a legal petition to take their two children, ages 3 and 1, back to the UK.
Overnight, Sophie Turner again turning to her famous friend Taylor Swift amid new developments in her high-profile divorce from Joe Jonas. The two heading to a hotel in New York City the same day Turner filed a lawsuit against Jonas. And just days after she and Swift, who dated Jonas in 2008, turned heads with a dinner out in New York. In the weeks since Turner and Jonas announced their separation, the split has turned acrimonious, with rumors about the reasons behind it flying.
I'm Sansa Stark of Winterfell. This is my home.
Now the Game of Thrones actress alleging she learned about the divorce through the media, while also alleging Jonas is wrongfully retaining their children in New York City and withholding their passports.
Sophie Turner argues in her petition that the children's habitual home is England, and therefore that's the country to which they should be returned.
According to the suit, the family relocated to England last April while they worked towards the purchase of their forever home. Turner says she had an agreed plan with Jonas, allowing their children to tour with his band until filming wrapped on her new series. The Jonas Brothers kicking off that world tour in August at Yankee Stadium, with Today backstage. Turner alleging their plan was for her to travel to New York, pick up the kids, and return to England. But days before that happened, Jonas filed for divorce in Florida. Jonas now speaking out about the lawsuit, a rep saying his wish is that Sophie reconsider her harsh legal position, adding Jonas believed they had reached an understanding and that they would work together towards an amicable co-parenting setup. A source close to Jonas also telling NBC News Joe never wanted to have a messy divorce like this.
It's complicated enough when parents from two different states enter into a custody battle over children. It's twice as complicated when one of the parents is fighting that battle from another country.
You know, there will be a court hearing about this, and it's going to be left up to a judge to decide where the children should be living. Should it be Florida, where Joe is primarily based? Should it be overseas? We've seen some of these Hollywood custody battles play out in the public eye in a very messy fashion, but we know from a source close to Joe Jonas that he really wants to keep things private and handle this as amicably as possible. Back to you.
All right, Chloe, thank you so much.
All right, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Cinadella for more on this. Good morning. Thanks for being here, Angela. So as we just heard, Turner is accusing Jonas of retaining the children and withholding their passports, not letting them go. What are the implications of that, if true, and how could that play into the custody battle?
So right now, there's no kidnapping. It's not possible there's kidnapping or abduction prior to a court order or prior to a custody arrangement. But I think Sophie's main plan with this is to move the entire divorce proceedings and all of the custody battle to England. So if what she is saying is true, it was almost like on a vacation Joe just filed in Florida and then thus makes the entire divorce happen in the U.S. So she almost had to do this in order to change it to England, which is what she wants, because as Danny said, it is impossible to fight a court battle across a pond.
So it really seems residency is like a key issue here, right? And Turner claims the couple intended to raise their kids in England, but now they're getting divorced, so perhaps Joe Jonas has other plans. How do they go about proving residency to the court?
So as Chloe said, it comes down to just a battle between what they're saying. But the court will really look at the past. And so Sophie's almost alleging more about the future. She's saying we plan to have a forever home in the UK. But the courts really like to see, well, where were the children most comfortable? Not just where did they plan to be someday, but really where are their families, where are their communities, where are their schools? And I don't know exactly where the kids went to school or where their closest friends are, but that's what the court is going to consider.
Important questions, and this could easily get messier. So if they do move to a private mediation, what would that look like?
Well, I think a lot of it is still going to happen privately. So they had to do a court order. She had to actually file this in order to invoke the Hague Convention. The Hague Convention, moving something across a pond, doesn't happen unless you file a lawsuit and you get a judge to order something. So private mediation, I hope that's how it will resolve. Look, the children will see everything publicly that happens in front of a court. That's all public. So the filings will be public forever. So you hope it moves to private. But sometimes you need a court.
This is a process, bottom line, that is likely going to go for months no matter what at this point, right?
Exactly. Months, maybe years, frankly.
All right. Angela Sanadella, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, it is Christmas in September.
Yeah, Amazon adding 250,000 workers ahead of the holidays, but not every business is being so bullish. We're breaking down what it all means for the economy coming up next.
Welcome back. Amazon is gearing up for the holiday rush with plans to hire 250,000 new workers. But the rest of the retail sector is looking a little less confident about the holiday season. NBC News business and data reporter Brian Chung breaks down some new labor market predictions.
Pumpkin spice is everywhere now, meaning it won't be long before the sweet sounds of Mariah Carey usher in the retail rush for holiday gifts.
I'm in a store and I'm singing!
To ensure they've got enough helpers to package all those presents, big companies are staffing up, well, big. Amazon announced it'll hire 250,000 workers this holiday season. That's almost double the number it planned to hire last year. And Target plans to bring on another 100,000 seasonal workers in line with 2022. But despite the eye-popping hiring at some companies, a new report looking at the bigger picture finds companies are set to add just over 400,000 retail jobs this season, about 100,000 fewer than last year.
This isn't necessarily a holiday labor market that's falling off of a cliff. It's cooler than it was a year or two ago, but one which is still very much in line with a more balanced labor market.
Macy's, for example, said it plans to bring on more than 38,000 workers for the holidays. That's fewer seasonal hires than it made last year and half of what it announced in 2021. Experts say those lower numbers might be because of higher labor costs. UPS, fresh off of a historic contract with its Teamsters unionized workforce, has yet to announce any holiday hiring. We're also still waiting on Walmart. Consumers may be tightening their wallets this season, too. In a CNBC Morning Consult poll, more than 3/4 of Americans said they plan to cut back on spending for non-essential items ahead of the holiday shopping season. High gas prices, elevated interest rates, and the resumption of student loan payments are drawing down pandemic savings, leaving less money for holiday shopping.
Some of those excess savings in households have really dwindled. I think that is really driving some of that decreased employer expectation of spending this year.
But that might be all right after what some economists see as an unsustainable run of revenge spending. More normal levels of holiday hiring while staving off any layoffs is the ideal balance for the Federal Reserve, still trying to battle higher inflation.
It is a good thing that we've seen now meaningful rebalancing in the labor market without an increase in unemployment.
Hopefully a sweet spot ahead of a holiday shopping season that isn't so far away.
Our thanks to Brian Chung for that report. Amazon says it'll be paying between $17 and $28 for its seasonal hourly wages this year.
For our financial headlines now, the state of California is scrambling to win back insurers as extreme weather becomes even more common.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Stephen. Yeah, so California's insurance commissioner is trying to come up with a plan to keep the nation's top insurers in his state. The state is considering letting them consider climate risks in the wildfire-prone state before they set their prices. Unlike most states, California currently only lets insurance companies consider what's happened in this past on a property to come up with a premium. But that's not working out for the state right now. In just the past in the past year, 7 insurance companies have paused or restricted new business in California. Insurers have also withdrawn from other states that are susceptible to extreme weather, including Florida and Louisiana. The head of the Anti-Defamation League came to the defense of the Adidas CEO yesterday. Adidas executive Born Gilden said on an investing podcast earlier this week, he didn't think Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, meant what he said when he made a series of anti-Semitic remarks last year. Well, now the ADL CEO says Gilden apologized for what he called a misstatement. Adidas broke ties with Ye after he made the comments and has been selling off its remaining Yeezy stock and donating part of the proceeds to organizations that combat anti-Semitism. And YouTube is entering the artificial intelligence race. The tech giant unveiled a new AI-powered tool called the Dream Screen Thursday. It will allow creators to type in prompts to create custom backgrounds on its TikTok competitor YouTube Shorts. For example, users can make it look like they're filming in space or in an enchanted garden. The Dream Screen will be available soon to a limited number of creators and will roll out more broadly next year. More reasons to stay on social media and on the screens. I mean,
yeah.
There you go. How about a news set as a backdrop?
There you go.
Be like, ooh, magical.
I want to hear more about this enchanted garden. Why is it so enchanted?
Right, right. That's the one I keep thinking of. I'm like, ooh.
There you go.
Thanks, Savannah. Appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, now to a reunion after a miraculous rescue at sea. A 25-year-old was found by the Coast Guard after being missing for days. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock watched the moment he was able to thank the first responders who saved him.
Charlie Gregory was brought back right here after nearly 40 hours out at sea. He was out fishing at 3 a.m. on the Intracoastal when a big wave came, capsized his boat, pulled up the anchor, and he was ultimately dragged about 12 miles into the ocean. First responders that we spoke with describe it as trying to find a needle in a haystack. And yet miracles do happen. These grainy images showing 25-year-old Charlie Gregory on an 8-foot aluminum boat miles off the Atlantic coast came at his absolute darkest moments of despair. What did you think were the chances of your surviving?
I was sure I was going to die. It was just a matter of when.
And with no flares or phone, which fell overboard into the ocean, the likelihood of spotting something so small for the U.S. Coast Guard was hard to quantify.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack. Person in a raft in the middle of the ocean, 13 miles offshore, outside of the search pattern that we had already searched already. Just incredibly difficult.
Throughout the nearly 2-day ordeal, more than a dozen boats passed Charlie, many, he says, within a stone's throw. Were you using your shorts to try to wave them down?
Yeah, actually, that's all I had was my board shorts, and I took them things off and was waving, yeah. I saw helicopters, I saw boats, I saw planes. None of them ever saw me.
All of it with his boat partially submerged in the water and sharks everywhere.
They would come right up next to you, and they just hover, and they don't really move away or anything.
After his incredible rescue at sea, this improbable reunion where there was plenty of love and gratitude for the first responders who saved his life.
Every day, we celebrate the life of my son. He's back because of all your hard work.
It's the kind of relief parents have a hard time putting into words when he first arrived on shore.
There's a God up there. If you ever thought it wouldn't, let your kid go missing offshore in the friggin' ocean for 38 hours. I gave up hope. I should never give up hope. Don't give up on the big guy.
And also weeks later, in the presence of all those heroes.
And I am screaming, he's alive. Charlie's been found. He's alive. And Raymond is screaming on, he's alive. And it just was an intense, overwhelming sense of elation and joy. I don't know how else to describe it.
It is just amazing. And the U.S. Coast Guard said they had completed 2 search patterns already. They had crafted a third, and were about 10 minutes into that one when they spotted something on radar, a coconut in the middle of the ocean. It turned out to be Charlie. I asked Charlie after the fact, would you have done anything differently? He said, absolutely. Get a bigger boat. In St. Augustine, Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
We always need a bigger boat. All right.
Totally. Thanks so much for that, Sam. Well, coming up, it is finally Friday, and we are ready for the weekend.
From the big screen to the small screen, we are breaking down all your entertainment options. So get that popcorn ready. Ralphie Aversa is here with your can't miss list. That's next. Stay with us. Finally, this hour, it is Friday, which means it's time for your weekly Can't Miss list.
Yeah, all the movies and shows you have to see this weekend. And joining us now on set is Ralphie Aversa. He's the host and producer for Entertain This. Ralphie, good morning. Thanks for being here. It's going to be a good weekend maybe to spend indoors for a whole lot of people. A movie theater, a good options. We got two to talk about. We've got a horror movie with a moral message and a sequel in the action franchise. Intrigued by both of those premises, Expendables 4 and It Lives Inside. What can you tell us about those?
All right, we'll start with Expendables 4. This is, of course, the fourth and I believe final installment of this franchise. Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Dolph Lundgren, who you see there, some of the familiar faces. But yeah, some new ones like that guy, the Kid 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. He's got some acting chops. Megan Fox, another new face in this one. Andy Garcia as well. You know, it's funny. Arnold Schwarzenegger was telling us back in 2015 that he was urging Stallone to write Expendables 4. It was supposed to come out last year. A year later, it gets its theatrical release.
All right. What about It Lives Inside, that horror movie with a moral message?
Megan Surrey stars in this one. Maybe you know her from Netflix's Never Have I Ever. She plays a high schooler who really isn't proud of her Indian heritage, but she's forced to embrace it after her friend is possessed by a demon. I guess it's PSL season, so it's also spooky season. If that's the case for you, this is the movie for you for sure.
There should be a PSL horror movie. I think that would be like wow. Totally.
Many minds just exploded. Trust me. And I'm sure somebody's in the process of writing.
Do that right now. There'd be a moral message with that one. All right, so let's talk about there's a spin-off for John Wick. It's going to be on Peacock. Highly anticipated. What should we know about this?
Okay, so if you know the hotel in John Wick, the Continental, this is basically based on that. It's an origin story from the 70s. Colin Waddell stars in it. He plays Ian McShane's character, a younger version of that character. Mel Gibson's also in this one. And if you're a big fan of those John Wick movies, you're definitely going to love the Continental with new episodes streaming on Friday on Peacock.
No Keanu Reeves in this, but still has those vibes, right?
Yes, exactly, 100%.
Important to point out, because a lot of people love their Keanu Reeves.
Exactly.
Also, a new biography coming out about the wrestler Cassandro. It's got quite the cast. What can you tell us about that one?
This was one of our favorites, actually, from Sundance. It's a biopic. Gael, hold on, wait, let me get his name right. I don't want to mess up his name. His name is Gael Garcia Bernal. He stars in this one, and he plays a wrestler who confronts his queer identity and in the process gains new stardom and a whole new persona as well. Really interesting stuff, and again, it premiered at Sundance.
He's a lucha libre wrestler, and it's such a rich tradition, especially in Mexico. I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm a wrestling fan. So, yes. All right, finally, we've got American Horror Story is back, and this is making so many waves because of one particular star who's going to be appearing in this one.
Yeah,
right?
Kim Kardashian's in AHS as well, and yeah, this has been trending for us. I mean, like, this has been a big story at USA Today because a lot of people are curious about Kardashian's participation. All of the arcs and the different casts that they have for American Horror Story are very interesting. But of course, this may be the most interesting, so certainly looking forward to this. Also looking forward to one more thing, by the way, if you are looking to get into the theaters, Barbie is going to be in IMAX for a week, and I guess there's some bonus footage for that one as well. So quick little pivot there as well. Sorry,
that would
Kim.
be good to get that. No, exactly. I mean, are we hearing much about Kim Kardashian's performance yet? Do we know anything about it, or is
not other than the few clips that have been released online, the very little. So other than that, not really. But there's so much interest in it. I mean, there's interest in anything that Kim does. So.
Exactly. But to see her acting is going to be unreal. I mean, American Horror Story is. Are you a big American Horror Story fan?
I've watched a couple of seasons. I'm trying to figure out. This one is American Horror Story Delicate. I know that one's harder to follow what it is.
It's the 400th season of American Horror Story.
Hotel, you can understand. The Circus, you can understand. Delicate, I'm like a little more confused about what that's about.
And Hotel was the one with Lady Gaga, which everyone, of course fondly remembers that one very much.
Probably hasn't been as much buzz since then for, you know.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. But they've launched so many careers. I mean, gosh, I remember, just some of the legends that they brought on to do some of these. Stevie Nicks was even in it. So, all right. Very cool.
All right, Ralphie Aversa, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.